There are certain adventures in life that deserve to be on a list, namely the bucket lists. These are the adventures that you plan and work for, and one of them has just been brought much closer to every South African angler. This is a must-do trip. We had the privilege to join a unique tour running from Swakopmund to the KUNENE River mouth at the KUNENE Dune Camp. Secluded and well protected amidst the large dunes. Fishing activities are allowed from FRIA along 80 kilometers of coastline to the mouth. At the Dune Camp, the southwester has less effect and the most beautiful scenes of dunes, wildlife, birds and insects could be experienced in the privacy of the concession area. Like most good adventures, this one also started at the crack of dawn. We had a long drive ahead from Swakopmund to the first stop on the beach for the night. Each vehicle was equipped with a short-range radio to keep in constant communication while driving over the rough desert terrain. These radios also allowed our guide, Hein Tritter, to share interesting stories and facts about the area we were in. Our last stop before truly entering the desert was Henties Bay. Here we met the rest of the group and made sure the vehicles were fully fueled and prepared for the rest of the trip. Windscreens were cleaned and tires were pressurized correctly. This would be the last place to pick up any items we had forgotten or still needed. The convoy travelled north on the C34. After one of the few good dirt roads we saw on this trip, we reached the much revered Skeleton Coast National Park gates. Here the group got to know each other better, we shared some past experiences and the excitement was making us feel like young boys on our first fishing trip again. Leaving the gates, the roads became a lot worse and it was like driving in an alien landscape. We covered as much road as possible while appreciating the special beauty of this unique piece of barren paradise. Soon the vehicles were covered in a fine sand dust. During a quick break, we could take a moment to truly appreciate the environment we were in. As far as you looked, large rock formations peaked the horizon and the ground shimmered as the hot sun beat down on it. And one moment you would be traveling along smoothly, only to be greeted by a really bumpy piece of road. What a surprise! Before we knew it, we reached the infamous Terrace Bay. This would be the last place for us to refuel the vehicles and the last cell phone reception. The petrol station didn't exactly resemble the engine stops we used to know, but they did the job. The roads we left behind had also taken their toll on some of the vehicles and some impromptu repairs had to be made.
So we hooked up a trailer that we rented in Henties Bay, and unfortunately with the Namibia rocky roads, what's happening, the rocks bounce off the trailer back onto your car, and as you'll see there, got a stand through my back window. So it's always better if you got your own trailer to put a travel blanket on, something that's nice and padded, double sponge layers, so that rock that hits the trailer just dampens its power and it falls down. Alternatively, a net system that the rocks don't get onto the trailer. unfortunate. We'll sort it out, carry on.
Apart from damaging the rear window of Team Conqueror's Ford Ranger, the rented trailer itself was in bad shape. The bearings were loose and needed tightening, but even worse was the damaged connection between the trailer and its hitching point, which needed urgent attention. We were suddenly regretting our decision to take a trailer along that was not really meant for this terrain. The value of having a good spread of quality tools for all types of situations became evident, and it was clear that it was not the first time that this group has done trips like these. We knew we were in good hands. The camera doesn't do justice to this road. Not gonna see that. This is a terrible road. At MOWE Bay, the rough roads gave way and it was time to deflate the tires and make the vehicles ready for soft sand driving. This meant deflating the tires to spread the weight more evenly. Reaching the top of a rocky crest, we finally got our first view of the Atlantic Ocean, the fishing grounds we had come for. One more hurdle stood in our way, crossing the Warisep River. The inland area has seen heavy rains and the river was flowing rapidly. This was one of the rare occasions that this river was in flood. But Hein's experience and knowledge of the terrain certainly showed, and he found a safe way through for all the vehicles. Before we knew it, we were all on the other side and on our way to Rocky Point, another famous landmark of the region. From Rocky Point onward, we followed the beach until we reached ANGRA FRIA, the location of our first night's camp. Nestled among the rocks and out of the wind, it was a great place to recover and wind down before pushing on to our final destination the next day, KUNENE River Camp. The next day would be our first day of fishing. We got up before the sun, packing and rigging tackle in the dark, eager to get to the water. A cold wind was blowing, but motivated by the sounds of the ocean, we managed to pack up camp in no time and we were on our way down to the water. Before we knew it, the lines were in the water and the first fish were on. Sardine and choco were excellent bait and the young cobs came to the party. A few of these beauties were landed on light tackle and the fishing trip was officially off to a great start. They were close in and an easy cast was enough to get them. Some weren't as fortunate though, and Leon Krause missed a good bite by throwing a paddle tail. This was a good indication for all of us to use plastics, as Johan beside me was on with a decent fish, as I got a good hit myself after changing from bait to paddle tail. Paddle tails! Cop on the paddle tail. First one was on bait, we switched to paddle tails, now they're on. Fourth strike, second fish on. The right presentation and retrieve got them going. We had quite a productive streak on the paddle tails and a few good quality fish came out.
My first cop on this trip on paddle tail, Werner's on paddle tail as well, so lures working, fantastic.
That's it. Johan Donald found the pattern and he was on with another big one shortly after.
On paddle tails, fantastic. This one grabbed it as it hit the water. It was on. Unbelievable. That's what we came here for.
Early in the trip, he earned his tour name, Mr. Paddletail. But he certainly got the kabeljo going as he would so distinctly call these beautiful West Coast fighters.
What a beautiful fish on a paddle tail, absolutely awesome. That's why we're going with Hein to KUNENE. Amazing. Thank you, sir.
It was at this time that we could all take in how lucky we were to have the privilege to be some of the very few to have fished here.
We are at the Skeleton Coast, about 30 k's, 40 k's south of the KUNENE River mouth, on with a cobby, probably about 4 or 5 k's. Great fun.
Eventually the bite slowed down and it was time to continue along the beach to our camp among the dunes. Unfortunately, the hot sands and some hidden shipwreck debris took their toll on the tires, and I lost a front tire on the Hilux. I was convinced that Hannes and Leon worked at a Formula 1 support team in their previous lives, as the pit stop was not even long enough to have a drink. In no time we were back on the road, or rather off the road, and shortly after that we reached our camp. An amazing sight, nestled between the dunes like an oasis. It was amazing how protected and hot it was here, as opposed to the cold southwester on the other side of the dune. Setting up our tents and getting the camp in order was done swiftly, and we were soon reflecting on the first part of the adventure by getting back to cast another line into the sunset. We ended the day with a great KUNENE dinner and a good night's rest. In the next episode, our adventures continue and we get to meet the bronze whalers of the KUNENE.